Hello and welcome. There is nothing you need to do here and nothing you need to follow or remember. You can let your eyes close whenever you like and let the words drift past you like the gentle sound of rain on a window, because the whole point of this is simply to give your mind something soft and unhurried to rest on as you fall asleep. We are going to talk very slowly and very gently about probability, about chance, about the quiet mathematics of not quite knowing what will happen next. And it is a lovely thing to drift off to, because at its heart, probability is really about making peace with uncertainty, about being calm in the face of all the things we cannot know for sure, which is exactly the kind of calm that helps a person sleep. So let us begin softly with a simple question. What is probability really? It is just a way of putting a number on how likely something is. That is all. When you are not certain whether something will happen, probability is the gentle tool we use to measure that uncertainty, to say how strongly we expect one thing rather than another. We use the idea constantly, all through our ordinary days, often without ever noticing. When you glance at a gray sky and think it will probably rain, you are doing probability. When you decide you will likely catch the next bus or that a friend is probably running late, you are softly weighing chances in your mind. Probability simply takes that everyday feeling of more likely and less likely and gives it numbers so we can consider it clearly. And there is something soothing in that, in the idea that even uncertainty itself can be held gently and measured, that not knowing is not the same as being lost. The numbers of probability live on a soft little scale, running from zero at one end to one at the other, and you can picture it as a gentle slope if you like, or simply let the idea rest in your mind. At the very bottom, at zero, sit the things that will not happen at all, the impossible things, like rolling a 7 on an ordinary six-sided die, which has no 7 to land on. At the very top, at 1, sit the things that are completely certain, that will happen without fail, like the simple fact that tomorrow will come, whether we are awake to see it or not. And in between, across that whole gentle rain, lie all the things that might or might not happen, the maybes and the perhapses that make up so much of life. Something with a probability right in the middle, what we would call one half, is as likely to happen as not, perfectly balanced, like a coin resting on its edge before it tips one way or the other. Most of the things we wonder about live somewhere along this quiet scale, neither certain nor impossible, just more or less likely. Often, when we talk about chance in everyday life, we slip into using percentages, which are really just the same gentle scale dressed in slightly different clothes. When a weather forecast says there is a 70% chance of rain, it is simply placing that day somewhere up toward the likely end of the scale, telling you that rain is more probable than not, though still not certain. A 50% chance is that balanced middle again, the coin, on its edge. A 10% chance is something low and unlikely, down toward the quiet end, near impossible, though not quite there. You do not need to do any arithmetic with these numbers as you lie here. You can simply let them be soft markers of how the world leans, gentle indications of which way things are likely to fall, nothing more demanding than that. The whole language of probability is just a calm way of speaking about the leanings of an uncertain world. And here is a gentle thought to settle into as we begin. Almost nothing in life is truly certain, and for a long time, people found that frightening, this great fog of not knowing what tomorrow holds. But probability is, in a way, humanity's calm and patient answer to that fog. It does not pretend to remove the uncertainty, because the uncertainty is real and will not go away. Instead, it gives us a gentle way to live inside it, to reason carefully about what is likely and what is not, to plan and prepare without ever needing to know the future for sure. There is a quiet wisdom in that, an acceptance that we can be at peace with not knowing, that we can hold the unknown lightly rather than gripping it with worry. So, as we drift through these ideas together, you might let that be the soft feeling underneath it all, that uncertainty is simply a part of things, woven gently through every day, and that there is a calm and even beautiful way of making our peace with it. And nothing we say from here on needs to be held tightly or solved or kept. Let it all just drift. Let us drift now toward the simplest and oldest examples of probability, the gentle little objects that people have used for thousands of years to play with chance, the coin, the die, and the deck of cards. There is something restful about them, these small, familiar things, and they make the ideas easy to feel without any effort at all. Picture a single coin resting in the palm of your hand. When you toss it into the air and let it fall, it can land in only two ways, heads or tails, and there is no reason for it to prefer one over the other, since the two sides are, for our purposes, perfectly balanced. So we say the probability of heads is 1/2, and the probability of tails is 1/2, the two possibilities sharing the whole of the certainty equally between them, like two halves of a single quiet whole. There is nothing more to it than that, just two outcomes equally likely, dividing the certainty evenly. This gives us the gentlest rule in all of probability, so simple you can hold it in your mind half asleep. When all the possible outcomes are equally likely, the probability of the thing you are wondering about is just the number of ways it can happen divided by the total number of things that could happen. With a coin, there is one way to get heads out of two possible outcomes in all. So the probability is 1/2, 1/2. You do not need to calculate anything as you rest here, only to feel the shape of the idea that we are simply counting the ways something can happen and comparing it gently to all the ways anything could happen. It is a kind of soft bookkeeping of possibilities, nothing more. Now let the coin fade and picture a single die, the little cube with its dots from 1 to 6, the kind you have rolled in countless games. When you roll it, it can come to rest, showing any one of 6 faces. And again, if it is a fair and ordinary die, there is no reason for it to favor any one face over another. So each of the 6 is equally likely. The probability of rolling any particular number of 4, say, is therefore 1 out of 6, that single face among the 6 that could have come up. And if you wonder about something a little broader, like the chance of rolling an even number, you simply count the faces that would satisfy you: the 2, the 4, and the 6, which is 3 faces out of the 6 in all, giving 3 out of 6, which is the same as 1/2. Half of the faces are even, so half the time, in the long run, an even number will gently come up. You can almost see the cube tumbling slowly and coming to rest again and again, sometimes even, sometimes odd, with no hurry and no pattern, just the quiet, even sharing of chance among its faces. A deck of playing cards is the same gentle idea, only with more pieces to it, 52 cards in all, each one equally likely to be the one you draw if the deck is well shuffled. So, the chance of drawing any one particular card, the Ace of Spades, perhaps, is 1 out of 52, a single card among the whole quiet stack. The chance of drawing a heart, since there are 13 hearts in the deck, is 13 out of 52, which gently simplifies to 1 out of 4, because the hearts are exactly a quarter of the cards. The chance of drawing any king, since there are 4 kings, is 4 out of 52, which is 1 out of 13. In every case, we are doing nothing but that same soft counting, the ways it can happen, set gently against all the ways anything could happen. Coins, dice, and cards are really all the same idea, wearing different faces, the quiet arithmetic of equally likely things. It is worth resting for a moment on why these particular objects, the coin, the die, the deck of cards, have been the favorite companions of probability for so long, and the answer is gently revealing. They are the things people gamble with, the toys of games, of chance, and it was precisely the world of gambling, of wagers and dice games and card tables that first led thoughtful people to study probability seriously at all. For most of history, the fall of a die was seen as the whim of fate or the will of the gods, something beyond all understanding, mysterious and uncontrollable. The quiet revolution was the realization that chance is not lawless after all, that even the tumbling of a die obeys gentle, knowable patterns, that the unpredictable, taken all together over many tries, becomes surprisingly predictable. And that discovery that there is a soft order hidden inside randomness is one of the loveliest ideas we will rest on tonight. And it is where the real story of probability gently begins, with 2 thoughtful men long ago puzzling over a gambler's question, the story of how probability became a real part of mathematics is a quiet and rather charming one, and it begins, of all places, with a gambler's puzzle more than 350 years ago. In the middle of the 1600s, a French nobleman who enjoyed gambling was troubled by a question about how to fairly divide the stakes in a game of chance that had to be stopped before it was finished. If two players are partway through a game and they have to quit before anyone has won, how should they split the pot fairly, given that one player might have been more likely to win than the other? It seems like a small thing, a gambler's quibble, and yet no one quite knew how to answer it properly. So the question found its way to two of the finest mathematical minds of the age, two Frenchmen named Blaise Pascal and Pierre de Fermat, who began writing letters back and forth to work it out together. In that gentle exchange of letters passed between them in the year 1654, these two thinkers laid the foundations of the entire mathematics of probability, almost as a friendly side project, a correspondence between friends puzzling over a game. They worked out how to reason carefully about all the possible ways a situation could unfold and how to weigh those possibilities fairly. And in doing so, they turned chance, which had always seemed the very opposite of mathematics, into something that could be studied with the same rigor as geometry or arithmetic. It is a lovely thought to drift on, that one of the most powerful and useful branches of mathematics, one that now underlies science, medicine, finance, and so much more, began with two friends gently puzzling over how to fairly split a gambler's pot. From such small and human beginnings, great things sometimes calmly grow. In the years that followed, other thoughtful people took up the idea and deepened it, and one of the most beautiful discoveries to emerge is something called the law of large numbers, which is worth letting settle softly into your mind because it captures the deep magic of probability. The law of large numbers says, in gentle terms, that while any single random event is unpredictable, if you repeat that event many, many times, the average result becomes remarkably steady and predictable. A single coin toss is a complete mystery. Heads or tails, you cannot say which, but toss a coin 1,000 times and you can be quite confident that you will get close to 500 heads, somewhere near half, even though each individual toss was its own little unknown. The more times you repeat it, the closer the overall result settles toward what we expect. The randomness of each single try gently smooths out over many tries into something dependable. There is something deeply soothing in this idea, this notion that out of countless individual uncertainties, a calm and reliable pattern emerges. Each coin toss knows nothing and predicts nothing, and yet together, in their thousands, they trace a steady and faithful line toward one half. It is as though randomness, when you stand close to it, looks like pure chaos, but when you step back far enough and let many events blur together, a quiet order appears, smooth and predictable, like the way a single raindrop falls wherever it will, but a long rain falls evenly across a whole field. The unpredictable, gathered in great enough numbers, becomes the predictable. This is one of the gentlest and most reassuring truths in all of mathematics, that there is hidden order woven through even the most random things, waiting to show itself whenever we take a long enough and patient enough view. This same gentle law is, by the way, the quiet secret behind how casinos and insurance companies work, and it is rather restful to understand. A casino cannot predict whether any single person at any single table will win or lose, and on any given night, a lucky guest might walk away with a great deal of money. But the casino is not playing a single game. It is playing millions of games with thousands of people over years and years. And across all those countless plays, the law of large numbers takes hold, and the small built in advantage the casino has in each game smooths out into a steady, dependable profit. The casino is not gambling at all, really. It is relying on the calm certainty that emerges from enormous numbers of uncertain events, letting the law of large numbers do its patient work. And an insurance company does the very same thing in reverse, unable to know which particular house will catch fire or which person will fall ill, but able to predict across millions of customers roughly how many will, and to plan calmly around that. There is a quiet lesson in it that uncertainty about each single thing can sit comfortably alongside near certainty about the whole, and that is a peaceful place to rest. There is a gentle little mistake that almost everyone makes about chance, and it is a soothing one to understand, because once you see it clearly, a certain kind of worry silently dissolves. It is called the gambler's fallacy, and it goes like this. Imagine you have tossed a fair coin 5 times in a row, and somehow it has come up heads every single time, 5 heads in a row, which does happen now and then. Now you are about to toss it again, and it feels deep in the gut, as though tails is somehow due, as though the coin owes us a tails by now, as though the long run of heads must surely be balanced out. But here is the gentle truth. The coin has no memory. It does not know or care what it did before. On that sixth toss, the chance of heads is still exactly one half, and the chance of tails is still exactly one half, just as it was on the very first toss, completely unchanged by everything that came before. The coin begins fresh every single time, innocent of its own history. This is the idea of independence, and it is worth letting it settle softly because it is so often misunderstood. Two events are independent when the outcome of one has no effect at all on the outcome of the other, and coin tosses are perfectly independent, each one its own small, fresh beginning. The feeling that a tails is overdue after a run of heads is an illusion, a story our pattern loving minds tell because the coin simply cannot remember and cannot owe us anything. Now, this might seem to clash with the law of large numbers we just rested on, the one that says things even out over many tries, but the two live together peacefully. Over a great many tosses, the proportion does settle toward half, not because the coin corrects its past, but simply because a few early heads become a smaller and smaller part of an ever-growing total, gently diluted away rather than actively cancelled. The coin never makes up for anything. The long run just peacefully overwhelms the short one. When events are independent like this, there is a soft and simple way to think about the chance of several of them all happening together, and it involves the gentle word and. If you want to know the chance of getting 2 heads in a row, you are asking about heads on the first toss and heads on the second. And because each has a probability of one half, the chance of both is 1/2 of 1/2, which is 1/4. Two heads in a row happens about 1 time in 4. Three heads in a row is 1/2 of that again, 1 in 8, and so on. Each additional toss making the run rarer, having the chance each time. This is why a long, unbroken streak of the same result feels so striking, because each step makes it gently less likely, the probability shrinking with every toss, until a very long run becomes a rare and remarkable thing, even though every single toss along the way was a perfectly ordinary 50-50. You do not need to calculate any of this as you drift. It is enough to feel that combining independent chances makes things rarer, step by gentle step. There is one more soft idea from this corner of probability worth resting on, and it is called expected value, which is just a gentle name for the long run average of something uncertain. Imagine a simple game where you win a small amount if a coin comes up heads and lose the same amount if it comes up tails. Over many, many plays, you would expect to win about as often as you lose. And so your average result, your expected value, would be right around 0, neither gaining nor losing in the long run. It is a fair game, perfectly balanced. But now imagine the game is tilted ever so slightly against you, so that you lose just a touch more than you win each time, or win just a little less often than you lose. On any single play, you might still win, and it would feel like an even game. But the expected value is now gently negative, just below 0, which means that over the long run, play after play, you will slowly, softly drift toward losing. This tiny tilt, invisible in any single game, is exactly the small advantage that casinos build into their games, and the law of large numbers patiently turns that whisper of an edge into a certainty over time. There is something almost gentle and forgiving in understanding all of this rather than something cold. It means that when you see a run of bad luck, there is no curse upon you, no cosmic debt being collected, just the ordinary, innocent unfolding of independent chances, each one fresh and indifferent. And it means that the steady drift of a slightly unfair game is not bad luck either, but simply the quiet arithmetic of a small disadvantage repeated many times. Knowing this can take a certain weight off the mind, the weight of feeling that the universe is keeping score against us, or that we are owed something by fate. The coin remembers nothing, holds no grudges, and settles no debts. It simply falls, fresh and indifferent, every single time, and there is a strange peace in that, in the gentle, forgetful fairness of pure chance. Let us drift gently now toward the curious relationship between randomness and patterns, because it tells us something soft and surprising about our own minds. Human beings are pattern seekers, deeply and beautifully so. We find faces in the clouds and in the shadows of the moon. We hear meaning in the random patter of rain. We see shapes in the stars and stories in coincidence. This gift for finding patterns served our ancestors well, helping them spot the predator hidden in the grass and the ripe fruit among the leaves. But it has a gentle side effect, which is that we often see patterns where there are none at all, finding meaning in pure randomness, simply because our minds cannot help but look for it. and probability gives us a calm way to understand this gentle quirk of ours. Here is the soft and surprising part. True randomness does not look the way we expect it to. We tend to imagine that random things should be smooth and evenly spread, neatly scattered with no clumps or gaps. But genuine randomness is actually clumpy, full of clusters and streaks and bare patches, far more uneven than our intuition suggests. If you scatter a handful of seeds truly at random across a garden bed, they will not land in a tidy, even spread, but in little clusters here and bare spots there, purely by chance. And when we see those natural clusters, our pattern loving minds leap to find a reason for them, a cause, a meaning, when often there is none, just the ordinary clumpiness of randomness itself. This gentle illusion, this tendency to see meaningful clusters in random scatter, is something to hold lightly because it reassures us that many of the strange coincidences and runs of luck we notice in life are simply what randomness naturally looks like, not signs or omens, just a gentle clumping of chance. And yet, beneath all this apparent clumpiness, when you gather enough random things together, a beautiful and orderly shape gently emerges, one so common and so universal that it deserves a soft mention as you rest. It is called the bell curve or the normal distribution, and you can picture it as a gentle hill, low at both edges and rising smoothly to a rounded peak in the middle. It appears whenever many small, independent, random influences add up together, which happens all the time in nature and in life. Consider the heights of people, for example. There is no single cause of height, but rather countless small influences, many genes, and many circumstances, each nudging a person a little taller or a little shorter. And when all those small, random nudges add together across many people, they pile up into that smooth bell shape, with most people clustered near the average height in the gentle middle, and fewer people out toward the very tall and very short edges. This bell shape appears almost everywhere once you start to notice it, in the spread of measurement errors, in the scatter of test scores, in countless natural variations, all settling into that same calm hill, high in the middle and tapering softly at the edges. There is something deeply soothing about this, the way that the messy randomness of countless individual things, each one unpredictable, gathers itself into such a smooth and gentle and predictable form. It is another phase of that same comforting truth we keep returning to, that randomness taken in large enough amounts gives rise to order, that the chaos of many small chances resolves into a calm and recognizable pattern. The bell curve is, in a way, the quiet signature of accumulated randomness, the shape that chance settles into when it gathers in great numbers, and it appears so faithfully in so many different corners of the world that it feels almost like a gentle law of nature, a soft order underlying the apparent disorder of things. So when you lie here and think of all the random, uncertain things in the world, the countless coincidences and clusters and streaks. You might hold two gentle truths together. Up close, randomness looks lumpy and surprising, full of clusters that tempt us to find meaning, and much of what feels like fate or pattern in daily life is really just this natural clumpiness, nothing to puzzle over or worry about. And from far away, gathered in great numbers, that same randomness smooths itself into beautiful, dependable shapes, like the gentle bell curve, full of quiet order. The world is neither as meaningful as our pattern seeking minds insist, finding signs in every coincidence, nor as chaotic as it sometimes feels, but rests somewhere softly in between, random in its details and orderly in its great patterns. And there is a deep peace in seeing both at once, in letting the small coincidences be just coincidences, while trusting that beneath them lies a calm and reliable order, waiting in the large numbers, like the steady shape of a hill seen from a great and quiet distance. Now we come to the most delightful part of probability, the gentle surprises, the little puzzles where the true answer turns out to be different from what our intuition whispers. There is nothing to solve here and nothing to get right. These are simply soft curiosities to wonder at as you drift, the kind of pleasant strangeness that is lovely to ponder with a quiet, sleepy mind. The first is sometimes called the birthday surprise, and it goes like this. Imagine a room with just 23 people in it, an ordinary small gathering. What is the chance that two of them share the same birthday, the same day of the year? Our intuition tends to say the chance must be quite small because there are 365 days in a year and only 23 people, so surely a match is unlikely. And yet, the gentle truth is that with just 23 people, it is already more likely than not that two of them share a birthday, better than a 50-50 chance. It feels wrong, but there is a soft reason for it, and you can let it drift past without working it out. The trick is that we are not asking whether someone shares your particular birthday, which would indeed be unlikely. We are asking whether any two people among them share any birthday with each other, and there are far more pairs of people in a room than you would think. Among 23 people, there are hundreds of different possible pairs who could match, and with so many quiet chances for a match, it becomes quite likely that at least one of them lands on the same day. It is a lovely little reminder of how our intuition can gently mislead us about chance, how the number of hidden possibilities can be so much larger than it first appears. You can simply enjoy the strangeness of it, that a small room of people almost certainly holds a shared birthday with no need to chase the reason. Another gentle puzzle is one that famously confused a great many people, including some mathematicians, and it is soothing precisely because it shows that even the experts find chance surprising. Imagine a game with three closed doors. Behind one door is a wonderful prize, and behind the other two, there is nothing. You choose a door, say the first one, but before it is opened, the host, who knows where the prize is, opens one of the other two doors to reveal that it is empty. Now you are given a gentle choice. You may keep your original door, or you may switch to the other unopened one. Does it matter? It feels as though it should not, as though with two doors left, it must be an even chance either way. But the soft and surprising truth is that you are twice as likely to win if you switch. Your first choice had only a 1 in 3 chance of being right, and that humble chance does not change, which means the door you could switch to now calmly carries the remaining 2 in 3. It is one of the most famously counterintuitive little results in all of probability, and you are welcome to simply let it puzzle you pleasantly as you sink deeper towards sleep, with no need to be convinced. There is one more gentle surprise worth resting on, and it is a soothing one to understand, because it can silently ease a certain kind of worry. Imagine there is a test for some rare condition, a test that is very accurate, correct, let us say 99 times out of 100. And imagine the condition itself is quite rare, affecting only a tiny fraction of people. Now suppose someone takes the test and it comes back positive. It feels as though they must almost certainly have the condition, given how accurate the test is. But here is the gentle, reassuring truth. Because the condition is so rare, the great majority of people taking the test do not have it, and even a very accurate test will produce a small number of false alarms among that huge group of healthy people. And those few false alarms can easily outnumber the genuine cases. So, a positive result on a test for a rare condition often means the chance of actually having it is far lower than it feels, sometimes much less than half. This is not a reason to dismiss tests, which are valuable, but a gentle illustration of how the rarity of a thing must always be weighed alongside the accuracy of the test, and how a frightening sounding result is often far less certain than it first appears. These three little surprises, the shared birthday, the three doors, and the rare condition, all point softly to the same gentle lesson, which is that our intuition about chance, lovely and quick as it is, can lead us astray, and that careful, patient probability often tells a kinder or stranger story than our first feeling does. And there is something peacefully comforting in that, because so often our intuition leaps to the frightening conclusion, the worst case, the certainty of doom, when the calm arithmetic of probability reveals that things are more uncertain or more forgiving than they seemed. The frightening test result is often a false alarm. The run of bad luck is just ordinary randomness. The strange coincidence is simply what chance looks like up close. Probability, gently understood, is in many ways a tool for worrying less, for replacing the sharp fears of intuition with the soft, honest, and often gentler truths of careful reasoning. And that, perhaps more than anything, is a fine thing to carry with you toward sleep. Let us drift toward another gentle idea, the way that knowing something can softly change the odds of something else, which is called conditional probability. It is a soft and natural notion. The chance of a thing can shift depending on what else you already know. Picture again a deck of cards. Before you draw anything, the chance that the top card is a heart is 1 in 4, since a quarter of the deck is hearts. But suppose someone gently tells you that the card is red. Now you know more, and the odds shift, because hearts and diamonds are the two red suits. So among the red cards, half are hearts, and the chance is now 1 in 2. Nothing about the card itself changed, only your knowledge of it, and that alone gently moved the probability. This is conditional probability, the simple idea that likelihood depends on what we know, that information softly reshapes the odds. You use this gentle idea all the time without naming it. The chance of rain is one thing in general, but much higher if you already know it is the rainy season and the sky is dark with cloud. The chance that a friend is at home is one thing in the abstract, but quite different once you know it is the middle of a workday. We are always softly updating our sense of what is likely as new information drifts in, narrowing the possibilities, adjusting our expectations. And there is something rather peaceful in seeing this clearly, in understanding that uncertainty is not fixed and frozen, but gently responsive, shrinking and shifting as we learn more, so that even in a fog of not knowing, each small piece of information is a soft light that makes the way a little clearer. There's another gentle corner of probability worth resting on, which is the sheer number of ways that things can be arranged, and it leads to numbers so vast they are soothing to contemplate. The way the night sky is soothing in its enormity. Take an ordinary deck of 52 playing cards and consider how many different orders you could shuffle it into. The answer is a number so staggeringly large that it is almost impossible to hold in the mind. A number with 68 digits, far more than the number of grains of sand on all the beaches of the earth, far more even than the number of atoms that make up our entire planet. And here is the gently astonishing consequence. When you shuffle a deck of cards thoroughly, the particular order you produce has almost certainly never existed before in the entire history of the world and will never exist again. Every careful shuffle creates an arrangement that is, in all likelihood, utterly unique in all of time, a one-of-a-kind ordering that no human hand has ever produced and never will. It is a lovely thing to drift on, that something as ordinary as shuffling a deck of cards in your hands creates a brand new pattern never seen before in all of history. A tiny act of genuine originality hidden in the most everyday of objects, and it gently explains why some things, like winning a large lottery, are so very unlikely, because the number of possible combinations of numbers is so enormous that any single chosen set is a vanishingly small sliver of all the possibilities. There is no sadness in this, only a kind of soft perspective, an understanding of why the rare things are rare, and a quiet appreciation for just how many ways the world can arrange itself. The vastness of possibility is not frightening, but rather a gentle reminder of how rich with variation the world is, how many different ways even a small handful of things can be combined, an endlessness woven into the simplest objects around us. These vast numbers of arrangements are, in a way, the same idea we have returned to again and again, only seen from another gentle angle. Probability is, at heart, the careful counting of possibilities, the patient weighing of the many ways things could be against the particular way we are wondering about. Whether it is the two faces of a coin, the six faces of a die, the 52 cards of a deck, or the unimaginably many orders those cards could fall into, we are always doing the same soft thing, holding all the possibilities gently in mind and asking how a particular outcome sits among them. And the more you rest in this idea, the more the whole sprawling world of chance begins to feel less like a source of anxiety and more like a vast, quiet landscape of possibilities, most of them never to be, a few of them gently coming to pass, all of them held in the soft arithmetic of probability. There is room to breathe in that landscape, and room, as the night deepens, simply to rest. Here is a gentle idea from probability that gently explains a great deal about life, and it goes by the soft name of regression to the mean. It rests on a simple truth that extreme results, the very best and the very worst, are usually a mix of skill and luck, and that luck, being luck, does not tend to repeat. So, after something extreme happens, the next result tends to drift back toward the ordinary middle, not because of any force or correction, but simply because the unusual luck that produced the extreme is unlikely to strike twice. Imagine someone who has a truly extraordinary day, performing far beyond their usual level. The most likely thing to follow is not another record breaking day, but a more ordinary one, closer to their average, because that exceptional day was lifted partly by good fortune that probably will not come again right away. And after an unusually terrible day, the most likely thing to follow is gently a better one, closer to the middle, as the bad luck recedes. This soft idea calmly explains so many things that otherwise puzzle us. It is why the dazzling new talent often seems to fade a little after a spectacular start, not because they lost their gift, but because that first brilliant showing was their skill plus a generous helping of luck, and the luck regressed. It is why a slump so often ends on its own, why the worst stretches tend to give way to better ones without any special intervention. It is why, after a remarkable success, the follow up so often disappoints. The famous letdown of the sequel, the second album, the encore. None of this is jinx or curse or fading magic. It is simply the gentle pull of probability, the way extremes, being partly luck, tend to be followed by something more ordinary. And there is real comfort in understanding this because it means that a bad patch is very often just a bad patch, likely to ease on its own, and that the lows in life, like the highs, tend gently to pass and return toward the calmer middle. Probability also offers a soft and steadying way to think about risk, which is something our minds, left to themselves, are not very good at. We tend to fear the wrong things, to be frightened by the rare and dramatic, while overlooking the common and quiet. The vivid, shocking dangers that are easy to picture loom large in our worry, even when they are extraordinarily unlikely, while the ordinary, undramatic risks of everyday life, being familiar, slip beneath our notice, even when they are far more probable. This is simply how our pattern seeking, story loving minds are built, drawn to the vivid and the frightening. But probability, gently applied, can correct this, can help us see that the thing we most fear is often vanishingly unlikely, while the quiet habits of daily life matter far more than the dramatic dangers that haunt our imagination. To understand risk clearly through the calm lens of probability is, in a real way, to worry less and to worry about the right things, which is a gift to a restless mind. There is a deep and soothing pattern in all of this, in regression to the mean and in the clearer seeing of risk. And it is the same gentle theme that has run through everything tonight. Our intuitions about chance, quick and vivid as they are, tend to lead us toward worry, toward the fear that a bad run will continue forever, that a frightening, rare event is bound to happen to us, that an extreme is the new normal, and probability patiently and gently so often tells the kinder, calmer truth. The bad run will most likely ease. The frightening rare thing will most likely not occur. The extreme will most likely settle back toward the ordinary middle. Probability, properly understood, is in so many ways an antidote to needless worry, a calm voice beneath the anxious one, reminding us that the world is usually gentler and more ordinary than our fears insist. So, as the night grows deeper, you might let that be one of the soft truths you carry down into sleep, that the careful, patient mathematics of chance is, more often than not, on the side of calm. It does not promise that nothing bad will ever happen, because uncertainty is real and life holds genuine risks. But it gently reminds us that most of our sharpest fears are about things that are unlikely, that most bad stretches pass, that most extremes regress toward the ordinary, and that the world, taken as a whole, behaves far more steadily and far more kindly than our anxious imaginations would have us believe. There is a deep rest to be found in that, in trusting the gentle averages of things, in letting go of the need to brace against every unlikely danger, and in settling, instead, into the calm and forgiving middle where most of life silently takes place. And that calm middle is a fine and peaceful place to lie, as the thoughts slow and the night settles and sleep draws gently near. It is gently remarkable, once you begin to notice it, how thoroughly probability is woven through the fabric of ordinary life, peacefully at work behind so many of the things we take for granted. Think of the weather forecast, which we glance at every day. When it tells you there is a 70% chance of rain, it is making a careful probability statement, born from looking at many past days that were similar to this one and noting that on about 70 Out of 100 such days, rain fell. It is not a promise and not a guess, but a gentle, honest measure of how the day is likely to lean, an acceptance that the weather cannot be known for certain, but can be sensibly anticipated. There is something soothing in understanding a forecast this way, not as a prediction that might be wrong, but as an honest expression of uncertainty, a calm acknowledgement that the future is not fixed, but can still be reasoned about gently. Probability softly guides countless decisions, large and small, that shape our world. It is the foundation of all insurance, as we touched on earlier, that calm pooling of many people's uncertainties into a shared and predictable whole, so that the unbearable risk to any one person becomes a manageable, predictable cost across many. It underlies how doctors and scientists decide whether a new medicine actually works, because to know if a treatment truly helps, they must carefully weigh whether the improvement they saw could have happened by chance alone, using probability to separate genuine effects from the random noise of the world. It guides how engineers judge the safety of bridges and aircraft, thinking carefully about the small probabilities of various failures and building in gentle margins against them. It shapes how investments are weighed, how games are played, how scientists draw conclusions from imperfect data. In all of these, probability is the quiet tool that lets us act wisely in a world we can never fully predict, the patient companion that helps us make good decisions in the soft fog of uncertainty. It even reaches gently into the deepest questions of life itself, into the workings of biology and inheritance. The traits you carry, the color of your eyes, the shape of your features came to you through a process shot through with chance, the random shuffling and combining of genes passed down from your parents, each new life a unique draw from a vast deck of possibilities. Evolution itself, the grand, slow story of life on Earth, runs on a gentle interplay of random variation and patient selection, chance throwing up endless small differences, and the world gently favoring some over others across the long ages. Even the great unfolding of life is, in part, a story of probability, of countless small random changes gathered and shaped over immense stretches of time, much like the way countless random tosses settle into a predictable pattern, only written across billions of years and uncountable living things. And here is perhaps the most wondrous thought of all to rest on, a soft and astonishing idea from the deepest physics. When scientists look at the very smallest building blocks of reality, the tiny particles that everything is made of, they find that at that deepest level, the universe itself seems to run on probability. As we drift through these ideas, it is a gentle marvel to consider that a single particle, before it is observed, does not have one definite position or state, but exists as a kind of soft cloud of possibilities, described only by the odds of finding it here or there. Nature, at its very foundation, does not deal in certainties but in chances, in probabilities, as though the universe itself were calmly playing a game of dice at the smallest scale. The randomness we have been speaking of all this time is not just a feature of coins and weather and human ignorance. It appears to be woven into the very deepest fabric of reality, so that uncertainty is not merely something we suffer for lack of knowledge, but something built gently into the nature of things. There is a strange and lovely comfort in that, a thought to hold softly as you drift, the uncertainty you feel about your own life, about tomorrow and next year, and all the unknowns ahead is not a flaw or a failing, not a sign that you have failed to figure things out. It is simply your share of a deeper truth that uncertainty runs all the way down through the weather and the dice and the shuffling of genes and into the very particles that make up the stars and your own body. You live in an uncertain universe because the universe is uncertain at its very heart, and probability, this gentle mathematics of chance that thoughtful people have built up over a few short centuries, is humanity's calm and patient way of being at home in that uncertainty, of reasoning wisely and living peacefully without ever needing to know the future for sure. It does not banish the unknown because the unknown cannot be banished. It simply helps us hold it gently and rest. So let us gather all of this together gently as the night settles in and you drift closer to sleep. We began with the simplest idea that probability is just a soft way of putting numbers on how likely things are, a calm scale running from the impossible to the certain, with all of life's maybes resting somewhere in between. We played with coins and dice and cards, those gentle old companions of chance, and found the simple rule beneath them, the quiet counting of the ways something can happen against all the ways anything could. We followed the story back to two friends puzzling over a gambler's question and watched probability grow from that small beginning into one of the great tools of human understanding. We rested on the law of large numbers, that deep and soothing truth that countless individual uncertainties gathered together, smooth into steady and reliable patterns, so that the unpredictable, taken in great enough numbers, becomes predictable after all. We gently corrected the old mistake of the gambler's fallacy and found a certain peace in knowing that the coin has no memory, keeps no score, and settles no debts, beginning fresh and innocent every single time. We saw how randomness, up close, looks lumpy and full of clusters that tempt us to find meaning, while from far away it settles into the calm and beautiful shape of the bell curve. Order silently emerging from chaos. And we wondered at the gentle surprises, the shared birthdays and the three doors and the rare conditions, those soft reminders that careful probability often tells a kinder or stranger story than our quick intuition does. And we arrived, at last, at the deepest and most soothing thought of all, that uncertainty is not a flaw in the world or a failure in ourselves, but a feature woven all the way down into the very heart of reality, into the weather and the genes and the smallest particles of the universe. We live in an uncertain world because the world itself is uncertain, and there is a deep and quiet freedom in accepting that, in laying down the heavy and impossible wish to know the future for sure. Probability does not ask us to know what will happen. It simply offers us a calm and gentle way to live wisely inside the not knowing, to weigh what is likely, to worry a little less, and to make our peace with the soft fog of the unknown that surrounds every life. So, if there is anything to carry with you as you sink toward sleep, let it be this gentle feeling. You do not need to know how tomorrow will turn out. You do not need to solve the future or to chase away every uncertainty or to find a meaning in every coincidence and every run of luck. The world is uncertain, and that is simply how it is, woven into the nature of things, and you are allowed to rest inside that uncertainty rather than fighting it. The unknown is not your enemy. It is just the open space in which life unfolds, the same gentle space in which a coin tumbles, and a raindrop falls where it will, and a particle drifts as a soft cloud of maybes. There is room in all that uncertainty to simply let go. Let your mind drift now to one of the gentlest and most beautiful patterns in all of probability, the way that randomness, when you gather enough of it together, settles into a soft and predictable shape. Picture, slowly, the flipping of a coin, not once, but many, many times, and imagine counting how many times it comes up heads. If you flip it 10 times, you might get 4 heads, or 6, or 7, the number wandering a little this way and that. But if you flip it hundreds of times, and then thousands, and you gather up many such batches, and see how often each result appears, something lovely emerges, a gentle hill, high in the middle, and tapering away softly on both sides, the shape that mathematicians call the bell curve, because it curves like the outline of a bell. This soft hill appears again and again, almost everywhere you look, whenever many small, random influences add themselves together. The heights of people follow it, with most clustered around the middle, and fewer as you move toward the very short and the very tall. The small errors in careful measurements follow it, scattering gently around the true value. Countless things in nature and in life, when they are shaped by many little random causes piling up, arrange themselves into the same calm, symmetrical curve, the common middle rising high, the rare extremes trailing off to either side. It is one of the most reliable and soothing patterns in all of mathematics, the way that disorder, gathered in large enough amounts, gives birth to a smooth and gentle order. There is something deeply restful in this idea that even pure randomness, which feels so wild and unpredictable up close, becomes calm and orderly when you step back far enough and let enough of it accumulate. A single coin flip is a small mystery, its outcome unknowable until it lands. But a great many coin flips together form a shape so predictable you could draw it before you began. The chaos of the individual smooths into the order of the whole. And this is true not just of coins, but of so much in the world. the unpredictable behavior of any single thing dissolving into the steady, reliable patterns of the many. The randomness never goes away, but it arranges itself in the large into something gentle and known. This is why so much of the world can be understood and predicted, even though it is built from countless unpredictable little events. No one can say whether a particular coin will land heads, or exactly how tall a particular child will grow, or precisely what any single random thing will do. And yet, we can describe with great confidence how thousands or millions of them will behave together, because in the gathering of the many, the smooth bell curve emerges and the wild edges average away. It is a quiet reassurance woven into the deepest structure of chance itself that the world's randomness is not pure chaos, but carries within it, at the larger scale, a soft and dependable order. The gentle hill rising again and again, wherever enough small uncertainties are added together. So as you rest, you might let that image stay softly in your mind, the countless little random events of the world, the coin flips and the small chances and the tiny uncertainties, all gathering and settling gently into that smooth and symmetrical curve, the high, calm middle, and the soft, tapering edges. There is no need to hold on to it tightly or to follow it anywhere, only to let it drift there, a soft shape made of pure chance, the way that disorder becomes order, the way that the unpredictable becomes the predictable, when you simply let enough of it come together and settle into its natural form. The bell curve is always there, softly waiting, in the shape of the heights of people and the errors of measurements and the long runs of coins. A gentle order rising out of randomness, calm and dependable and soft. Let us drift now toward one of the gentle ways our minds tend to misread randomness, a soft little mistake that almost everyone makes, and that becomes calmer and easier once you understand it. Imagine a coin that has come up heads several times in a row, 4 times, 5 times, six. There is a strong, almost irresistible feeling that the coin is now somehow due to come up tails, that the run of heads has built up a kind of pressure that must soon be released. But the coin has no memory, none at all. It does not know or care what it did a moment ago. And on the very next flip, the chance of heads is exactly what it always was, and even 1 in 2, no matter how long the streak before it. This comforting little error, the feeling that chance keeps score and must balance itself out soon, is so common it has a name, the gambler's fallacy, and seeing through it brings a quiet kind of peace. The truth is that each flip stands entirely alone, fresh and untethered to all the flips that came before, and randomness simply has no memory of its own past. A long run of heads is not a debt that must be repaid with tails. It is just one of the many shapes that pure chance will sometimes make, and over a great many flips, the heads and tails will indeed come out roughly even, not because the coin corrects itself, but simply because, in the long gathering of the many, the streaks in both directions wash gently against each other and even out. There is no force balancing the books along the way, no pressure building, no tails owed. Each moment of chance is new, unburdened by what came before, and there is something restful in that, in the idea that randomness does not carry the weight of its own history. This connects to another gentle pattern, one with the soothing name of regression to the mean, which is simply the tendency for things to drift back toward the average after an unusual stretch. When something extreme happens, an unusually good run or an unusually bad one, what tends to follow is something more ordinary, closer to the middle, not because anything is correcting or punishing, but simply because the extreme was partly the work of chance, and chance on the next try is more likely to land somewhere ordinary than to repeat the rare extreme. An athlete who has an extraordinary season tends to have a more ordinary one next. An unusually lucky streak tends to be followed by more typical results. And this gentle drift back toward the middle is not fate or fairness, but just the soft mathematics of chance, the rare giving way naturally to the common. Our minds, which are forever hunting for patterns and reasons, often misread these gentle workings of chance, seeing streaks as meaningful, seeing the ordinary aftermath of an extreme as a decline or a recovery, seeing intentions and forces in what is only the soft, memoryless drift of randomness. We tell ourselves stories about hot streaks and cold streaks, about being due for good luck or bad, about momentum and slumps, when much of what we are seeing is simply chance doing what chance does, making runs and then ordinary stretches, wandering and then drifting back toward the middle with no plan and no memory at all. And there is a deep calm available in understanding this, in being able to look at a streak or a slump and recognize gently that it may be only the natural shape of randomness, nothing owed, nothing meant, nothing to brace against. So, as you settle deeper into rest, you might let go softly of the feeling that chance keeps score, that luck must balance, that streaks must end, or that the extreme must be corrected. There is no ledger, no memory, no pressure building in the world of chance, only each fresh moment, new and untethered, and the gentle long run tendency of things to even out and drift back toward the middle, not through any effort, but simply through the soft accumulation of the many. You can let the streaks be streaks and the runs be runs, understanding that they carry no debt and no meaning, only the natural texture of randomness. And in that understanding, there is a quiet release, a letting go of the worry that the world is keeping count, and a settling into the calm truth that chance simply flows, moment by moment, owing nothing to what came before and promising nothing about what comes next. And so, there is nothing left to do now, nothing to follow or remember or work out, nothing to hold on to at all. You can let the ideas dissolve like the last numbers on the gentle scale, fading from the certain to the uncertain to the quiet dark of sleep. Let the coins stop tumbling and the dice come to rest and the bell curve smooth itself into stillness. Whatever tomorrow brings, it will bring in its own uncertain way, and there is nothing you need to do about any of it tonight. Rest now, gently, in the soft and forgiving uncertainty of things, and let yourself drift slowly and peacefully all the way down into sleep. Good night.